Hey everybody, Basket here. Welcome back to TIS-100, a programming game. We're going to continue on our mission to beat all the things. This also has unlocked too. I'm going to wait to click on that until I do more of these. So today we're going to do the sequence indexer. So let's see what this is about. Also, my lag with the game is resolved. That's good. So sequences are zero terminated period. Read a sequence from in V. Okay. Read an index value from in X. Okay. Look up index value in the sequence. Write indexed value out. Okay. Interesting. So here's the example. So it gives us a series or a sequence that we're going to reuse for this whole thing. And then, so it says 0, so we're going to get the first thing. Okay, interesting. And then it comes out here. Okay. Oh, I forgot to check to see, did SP, okay, so SP doesn't have any record on this one. Okay, so I have nothing to beat right now. So I'm thinking if I take all the values from here, and then move them right, I put everything in here to start. And then this guy, I do want to wait until, this is done before I work on these. Because if I start doing stuff right away, I'm going to be indexing the wrong thing. So I think when this thing actually needs to move up into its hand. And then I guess move what's in your hand into the stack. And then if the thing in our hand is positive, then we go back to the beginning. Otherwise, I guess this isn't a command. There we go. Then go back to the beginning. If it's a 0, we want to move 0 down. Here we're going to move 0 right. I'm sorry. We're going to move up right. Here we're looking for move left right. So we're basically just trying to, this is to signal this thing you can start. Move left up. So the first thing this is going to do is just move down to nil. So that's going to make this thing wait until this thing is ready to go. And then it's going to take the value. So this is the loop. It's going to take the value from above and send it down. And then jump to the loop. So it sends the value down. This guy is going to have the same sort of thing. So, I mean, this is probably not optimal, but so we want to move the thing from above and send it to the left. This guy's going to be in charge of actually finding the number, is what I'm thinking of. And then its next thing it's going to do is, so probably the next thing it's going to do is move the thing from the left down and then jump to L. But that may or may not be the case depending on what we write here. And then over here we're going to move up, down, which is this thing here. So the actual answer is going to come up. Okay, so what this thing does is once it receives a signal, so the actual request comes in. So move right. Let's see, how do I do this? Move right into our hand. When we're pulling in values, we'll need to keep track of the count. So I guess the first thing we do is we do that, and then we want to store it. And then we want to move a value from up into our hand. So let's see, if we pass it a 0, So we have this thing in our hand. We want to swap. So now we have the index in our hand. If the index is 0, we want to jump to send. Send is swap. So now we have the value we had back in our hand. And we want to move our thing in our hand to the right. But we still want to do the rest of my code. Which the idea was I was going to take everything here, process it, throw it down here, but then move it back up afterwards. Because the index will reverse when it's in here. So really what I want to do is I swap. Instead of looking to see if it's 0, I look to see if it's greater than 0. And if so, I want to skip send. So we might shorten the name of that later if we need to. But so if we don't skip send, we're going to swap, take the thing, move it to the right. If we skip send, we need to swap. So now we have the value in our hand again. Oh, I guess, sorry, also, I guess reset maybe is a better way of saying this. So what we want to do is reset. So reset will be, we assume that we came here and we want to swap. And then we need to take everything from above. We're running out of space pretty quick, aren't we? Because what I want is take everything that's remaining, move it down. Once there's a 0, move on to the next point where I take everything from here and move it up. And there won't be a 0 up there. We could also preload in a 0. Let's see. So here's the loop. So this is populating the thing to the right. Let's also preload in a 0 to start. So we have a 0 on both sides of the string. We'll see if that's a good idea or not. This seemed like pretty straightforward, but the whole limited space is so tough to work with. Okay, so let's see. Reset is swap. So now I have whatever the value is back in my hand. And then I want to move what's in my hand down. And then I want to move up into my hand. If it's 0, then I need to well, okay, here's another idea. Instead of going back and forth, when I have the value, I can throw back in. Eventually I'll run into the 0. I know it's done, but I'm only using this 1. Okay, I kind of like that idea better. All right, let's think about that. So I'm going to move. So move right. So this is just to transfer the trigger over. We could potentially skip that and just go through this. No, I guess we need this for the memory thing. Okay, okay. So what we do is once we, for our loop, we want to move right. to our hand. Oh, right. Okay, that's the request. So the request comes in for what we want to actually get. So this is like sort of the main loop. Then we save it. We grab the thing from above. We want to swap. So is this is the index we're looking at 0? If so, then we want this. So send. And then send is, so the thing that's in our hand is not what we want. So we swap, which will get us the actual value that we want. And then we want to move the thing in our hand right. Okay. If it is so if this is equal to 0. So if send is equal to 0, I'm sorry, if the index we have, so they pass us 0 to start. So we get 0 here, we save it, we grab the next value down. I guess we could potentially evaluate the index first. Let's try it this way first, I guess. So move up into our hand, so that's 860. We do a swap, so that's moved into our pocket, and now what's in our hand is the index we wanted, in this case 0. If it's 0, we do send. So we swap, get 860 back in our hand, send that to the right. If it is not 0, then right here we'd want to subtract 1 from it. So let's say it's 5, now it's going to be 4. And then we want to swap that back in, and we want to move what's in our hand up. So it's putting it back on the stack. And then jump. So I guess in this case here we could say if it's greater than 0, don't send. And what then we could do is we could put don't send in here. And then we can move this code right in between the two. So if it's not 0, it'll skip these 2 lines and get to here, where it'll subtract, because we want to subtract either way. Well, I mean, once we have the value, you don't actually have to subtract, but there's no reason, we don't need to worry about not doing it. So then we want to swap, move the thing back up, so this is putting it back in, and then we jump to loop. But this thing, it never stops. So when we actually get the value, so right here, if the value in our hand is 0, then we are done. And we want to loop all the way back to the very top. Move something to the right. Or get something from the right. We need one more loop in here. Let me see. Hold on. So the actual loop for grabbing stuff from above is here. So this is the second loop here. So this loop here is for getting a value that we want, and then here is to actually find it. So we actually want to here jump to 2. So that's doing that. But if the thing in our hand is, if the actual value, so this 0 is actually 0, then we will want to jump to L instead, L1. So let's run this slowly and see. Well, I'll run it fast and see if it actually just works. Yeah. So it didn't work and it locked. So 1, we actually don't want this anymore. We decided against that. So let's, and that might even be enough to actually, no, okay. So I actually got through quite a few X's in the amount of time. That's interesting. So move down to nil. Okay, so jump, move left down, 0. So I mean, these are back in sequence here, which is promising. Why is that highlighted? That's weird. Okay, so let's do, oh, this is what it's sending, I guess. All right, we'll stop this. Let's do this slower. So what we want to do is this loop here is each request. So let's do an exclamation point here, play. So at this point here, we've moved the right, which is the index we want, into our hand, 0. Okay. Then we're going to hit a step. So we've saved that 0 into backup, pretty uneventful. And then this is our inner loop. So we take the thing from the top. So we have a 0 in our hand. Interesting. For some reason I was thinking it was on the other side. Okay, very well. Move 0 right. I kind of want it on the other side for the code I've written. And then if, and we don't want them to put the 0 on the other side. So if, before we actually move it over, if it is 0, we go back to the start. So we don't put the 0 over. Yeah, okay, this might work. So we'll go through. Oh, they're all 0s. That's silly. Start. Up. Wait, what? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so this is what I had here. If it's greater than that, go to start. Okay. So this is the loop. If the number is, as long as it's greater than, once it's 0. Okay, so we also don't want, yeah, if it's a 0, we don't want it to go over here. So let's do, if we have it, if the value we have is 0, then we want to jump to done, which is essentially this. Yeah. So done is this, and then here we can actually just jump back. We don't really have to do that. I mean, not that they both work, but this one, if it didn't hit this done, then we know that it's greater than 0 because they're only 0 or positive numbers. So let's try this. Right. So now, oh, we still got a 0 in there. Interesting. If the number is equal to 0, skip over to done. Oh, and then it's looping back up here? Yeah, okay. So we want to move, or jump to start. I feel like there might be a way to optimize that, but I guess for now. All right, so it's in there with the 0 on that side of it. Good. But it's going to be wrong because if I if I'm requesting 0, it's going to give it, it's going to do this. We'll try it. So I ask for 0. I do a swap. I get this number in, I move it into backup. If the number if my index is greater than 0, don't send, which is not actually the case. So it's going to continue on, do a swap, move that number to the right, which goes in. So it's wrong. Okay, but we anticipated that would happen because of the way these values are stored in here. So I want to reverse the values in there. Well, that's a shame. How do I reverse the values in there? I mean, one possible way is I put them in here. I pull them out, move them down. I put them in here. And they'd be in different order? No. What? So I guess I may need to keep track of how much it is and then do subtraction here. Whoa. This has got more complicated. If I take all these numbers, let me think, if I have them in here, because they come out in the same order that I put them in, right? So this number here, no, they come out in reverse order. Okay, so these do work in a weird way. All right, so it's not first in, first out. It seems like it's first in, last out. Well, that complicates things. I thought it was going to be the other way. Okay. Let me ponder some more, and then I will return.